Hi, this is Mark Lebedew, and you're listening to First Tempo.
What is the purpose of a timeout? Shall a coach give a lot of tactical instructions during a timeout, or try to change strategy, or just calm down the players and fine-tune very few things?
The reason to make a timeout is to show the fans and the club president that you are doing everything you can to win the match. This is the most important part, the reason to make a timeout. After that, you can make some small changes to the tactics. You can have some effect of the momentum. You can change the concentration of your team or the other team. I think that this is useful for this reason, but I'm sure that it's overrated as a positive effect on the game.
Actually, I know that you have a very special opinion on this matter, so that's why I ask.
You have to be a little bit careful what I write because sometimes I want to be a devil's advocate. So maybe I will write an opinion that's I only 70% believe, but I want to see what the arguments are, what are the discussion points. So to promote a discussion.
So it's a kind of provocation.
A little bit. So, for example, I wrote a lot about timeouts and I studied them, and my friend who is a statistician, we studied different leagues and VNL, and it's not what I always write is that there's no evidence that timeouts work. So this is true, but it's not completely true because the study that we make, of course, doesn't show cause and effect, and averages over 150 matches doesn't mean that the timeout doesn't work one time, because if you take a timeout, you don't want to work on average, you want to win 1 point. I think when I say that they don't work, I don't literally believe this, but I will say that the value of a timeout, I'm certain, is overrated. It can have some effect, but I don't think that volleyball would be worse if there were no timeouts and the players just played the game like a football game.
You like to say that laughing makes you a better coach. Can you tell us the funniest story you've had as a coach?
The funniest story I've had as a coach. This one you had to give me some notice about. The funniest story, the first thing that comes into my mind is when I have been at practice and was hit in the balls by the ball. So that's the funniest thing I can think of off the top of my head. But every day there are funny things that happen. Some player gets hit in the head, some player spins around and does something that looks stupid. There are lots of things. The reactions of the players on the other side. Actually, I think I can think of one funny story that I won't say who the people are, but when you're playing the game, for the players and the coach, there are different small games that are going on inside the game. So how you react to the opponent, and when you smile or laugh, or this is also some kind of message to the opponent. Sometimes when I'm part of a game, I want to smile to show to the opponent that I don't take them seriously, or that I know that they are not. I don't know what the word is. That I'm not taking them seriously, their games. And I had one match not long ago where there was a player on the other team, and one of the most famous players in the world, and he started to do the same thing to my team. So he started to smile and laugh through the net to show that he did not take them seriously, and that it was all some fun for him. In some moments, after one action, he and I looked directly at each other, and we are both smiling and showing the other team that we don't take them seriously. And in that moment, he winked at me. This was, I know that you know that I am full of shit. basically, is the way. So this was the funniest thing that happened to me in a game in the last few months.
Nowadays, you're coaching the team of Warta Zawierce in Poland, and you achieved fourth place last season, which is the highest in the history of the club. How did you succeed in building such a strong team, taking into account that you don't have any star players actually? So let's say that inspired by the movie Moneyball, you built a Moneyball team.
In some way, this is true. That in the sense that I have I have read Moneyball and I followed the analytics movement, I guess in some way, even if I'm not an analyst. And the point of Moneyball is that people in sport and everywhere, they don't value players, in this case, correctly. So they value some skills, they value some personalities more or less than they should. And if you are building a club with a budget, then you have a chance to find players that are not valued correctly for some reason. In this case, in Zawierce, then probably the most important is actually we had two. We had two last season that made a really big difference for us, and one was Michal Mazny, who is a strong character, and in a few different places he had problems with. Had some problems because he's a strong character. He was also at the start of last season. He was 39. Even if he was in good shape and playing well, the age, the history meant that we could take him for a good budget. This was the first thing, and this is really a Moneyball idea. And the second one was we had an injury during the season, and we were able to sign during the season with Alex Ferreira. This was another case. He was injured. The injury wasn't a really serious injury, but it was enough that his club broke the contract. This one is more by accident, but at the exact moment that we were looking for a player, he was available. Normally, he would not have been somebody that we could afford, but just in that moment in the market, it was a good moment for us. So this is one part of it. The second part is building the team is to try to find players and skills that are complementary. So when you are in a big club, one of the traps that you can fall into is the idea of collecting players. So we have money, so we get the 7 most expensive players that we can find. If you have the 7 best players, then okay, this is one thing. But if you just have 7 expensive players, you don't know if they can play together. Maybe you don't have. Maybe you have all good spikers but no good receivers, or maybe the middles you have are only good in attack but not in block, or maybe you have the wrong number of foreigners, so you have difficulty to manage who's playing at different times. And it's important if you want to build a team that you have the skills and the personalities that are complementary and can play and can work well together. And a big part of it is guesswork, because you don't know how people will be until you work with them, and you don't know how people will work together until they are together. But as much as you can, you try to find an idea that this guy is a worker, this guy is, he likes to play a certain way, and that fits with one other player. We already have 2 spikers, so now we have to find a receiver. This is the way that I think about building the team. It's worked a few times. It doesn't work every time, because if you have a budget, then you have some limits. But this is the way I think about putting the team together.
Mark, it was a pleasure for me talking to you. And again, I would like to thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest in First Tempo. And I would like to thank again the listeners for listening, and I hope that in the future you're going to be again a guest of ours. Thank you.
My pleasure. It was nice to talk to you, and I'm happy to talk anytime. If there's one thing that I can talk hours about is volleyball.
Thank you. And dear listeners, again, thank you for listening to our channel and our podcast First Tempo. And I hope that you're going to do it the next time too. Bye.